Blackberries. These are the books that I promised to talk to you about. It's beautiful out. I think my face is pastier than usual because I use sunscreen on my face and then I wiped my eyes and I got in my eyes a little bit. So I'm struggling. But I'll put this camera down and then we'll try to record a little bit of a haul video, a large haul video. I went to Blackberries, gonna fall out. I went to the university library sale, which happened twice yearly, and I've missed the past year, I think, but it's the best way to buy books. These books either are of immediate interest or stay on my shelves for, a year or two, but books do something when they're on your shelves and you have a space that's designated for writing practice. And there's this communication that's happening with your ideas and generating a space for this practice, and then looking over and having a Kierkegaard anthology that I haven't looked at in 2 years, and then flipping through it and it's just connects some idea that I've been having. That's why these books are important. Some of them I'll be interested in and reading right away, and others I'll think, why did I get that? But for $2 a paperback, $3 a hardcover, I got 26 books, and there's a plane overhead, a little passenger airplane. This sale was interesting because I hadn't been in a year. I was all excited to go. And when I went there, I usually go to the literary criticism section, because the way they section off the books, literary criticism and biography, you'll typically be able to find some of the stuff that I really like to read, like books that are like essayistic or essay-based nonfiction, not necessarily your classic literary criticism. But anyway, I was a couple minutes late. The doors were open, really narrow hallways, really narrow shelves. They're super tightly packed together. Go to the literary criticism section. The shelf is empty. There's like one shelf on the entire bookshelf that has books on it, and it's just Foucault. I mean, it's like all Foucault. And I thought, shit, this is gonna be bad. But then I kept going, and I found a couple things. It still wasn't very good. But then I looped around to philosophy, and I started to find books. And then I think it went into like religion or history, and I found some books. And then the best part about this sale that was different from the other ones is that there was a children's books section, which I had first just passed over, didn't even look at. But then I realized they were getting rid of tons of children's books that some were actually children's books and some were just old classics. But anyway, I'll show you what I got. There was one book that I really missed out on. Well, I'll get to that. So one of the reasons why I like book sales, these library book sales, is because they're either getting rid of old books and interesting copies, and they're from, the 50s, 60s, 70s, or they're getting rid of books that are kind of like suspect in their content or their approach to an idea. Just something that like it wouldn't be a good look to have in the academic setting anymore. Case in point, I found these pamphlets that were by a Mormon, the president, I don't know what you call him, Mormonism's top dog, but it's all about the threat of communism and the internal threat to the American way of life, all of these political, religious books. That's an example of books that they have that they're trying to get rid of that aren't really a good look in the academy anymore, in the university. Another one that I should have gotten was a book called Right-Wing Women. I wouldn't have read it probably, but that one would have been nice to have on my shelves. Nevertheless, I got these. And then I found some Susan Sontag. These are the first books that I started to open up and go through after the book sale. And as an essayist and critic, or more an experiencer of art, she's very compelling to read. Her stories, I found this short story collection. I mean, by the way, that's an iconic cover photo right there. Her short stories, so far, a little bit obtuse for me, but her essays, really good right off the bat. I did find a few classics In the fiction section, I got Camus' Caligula. This is a cool copy from it's really nice quality from 1958, this copy. And then I'm not a huge existentialist, but nevertheless, I just showed you Camus, and I have Sartre here. And this is the 1964 edition, the year that he won the Nobel Prize. Nausea, the novel from 1938. It's a cool copy, and I mean, as much as I'm not an existentialist, they were great writers. So Thucydides, I feel like I'm gonna read at least part of this at some point. I think I got it because there's an epigraph in one of Peter Handke's books where he mentions Thucydides, and I am a Handke head, as you all know. And anyway, it seems good to have this around. And then I've got 2 books by Heisenberg, kind of pop science, physics and philosophy, and physics and beyond. I don't know, I'm interested in the atomic generation of physicists for the implications they had on our world, and also the creative mania that was happening at the time, and also science, the rhetoric of science, the scientific gesture, and the real world implications of those things. So I really like this cover too, cool book. And this one is printed in, was copyright 1958, and this is the 1962 edition. It's a cool thing about these library sales. I don't want the version of this that was published in 2016 and has like a glossy cover, and the papers looks like it was printed out from like Office Max. It smells good, it smells old. Yeah, old books feel better, and they're more beautifully done. I got some Descartes. This is a series of essays about Descartes, which is not really my thing. I don't want the interpretation, as we can see. Sontag, against interpretation. I don't really want the interpretation of something until I familiarize myself with the content from the actual source, unless that is just so far beyond my understanding, or I need someone to interpret for me. But like, anyway, it's a cool copy, but sometimes you get books like these at the book sale, and you're like, oh, that's not what I thought it was. But it was $2, so no problem. And then I got Kant, Immanuel Kant, Groundwork of the Metaphysics of Morals. And this is also a beautiful old copy. This is a 3rd edition from 1956. Wow, I just got a whiff of spring blossoms. Reminder that I'm alive. My boy Kierkegaard. These 2 beautiful copies. The anthology, I think, is from, see, this is also really cool because you find old stuff like this in these books. From Hamb, Hanna, maybe Hannah. And I've got Fear and Trembling and The Sickness Unto Death in this little copy. Really cool, nice cover too. Let me justify myself here really quick on my liking of the way books look and feel, and wanting them to have some sort of nice quality to them. There's an epigraph, Sontag's Against Interpretation essay. The bottom one, Oscar Wilde says, "It is only shallow people who do not judge by appearances. The mystery of the world is the visible and not the invisible." So if you're judging me for judging books by their covers, it's you, it's not me. Kierkegaard, good to have around. You know I'm in my Tolstoy era, so Russian fairy tales is a good book to have. There's some good ones in here. This one has cool illustrations too. I'm excited about this. This is a book that you have on your shelves and you maybe pick up randomly one day and find something that's very inspiring. And then Rain Eisler, The Chalice and the Blade. I listened to this audiobook, I think part way. Tao Lin is really into this and recommended this writer. And it's essentially, rather than having patriarchal origins, our society, global history and culture had matriarchal origins, and is kind of like an antidote to this dominator society way of looking at things. So more of like the lost age of like humanism in the historical record. Leibniz, New Essays Concerning Human Understanding. I mean, come on. This book is dedicated to my mother and sister, sometime gone where we shall know as we are known. And to my father, still where we see as in a mirror obscurely. In deepest love and gratitude, I dedicate this book. Can you see the resemblance? it's good to have an old grammar book, The Well-Tempered Sentence. Last sold in 1991 for $8.95. This one I'm excited about. Barry Lopez, Winter Count. I love Barry Lopez. I got to see him read about a year and a half before he died, and it was the best reading I've ever been to. I loved Horizon. I didn't like Arctic Dreams quite as much, but this was an earlier book than Arctic Dreams, the one maybe right before Arctic Dreams, when he was still middle naming himself. Anyway, it's cool. Relic, and you talk about author photos. That's about as good as it gets. Love Barry Lopez. So I was talking about children's books. This is the last volume in C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia, and it's a really cool copy, and it's got excellent illustrations in it. Does it help to have only the last volume in the Chronicles of Narnia? I don't know. Maybe it does help. That was cool. Jack London, 1915. You can't really see it there, but 1915. The contents of the book, I bet the binding is a little bit later than that. It's nice to have children's books around. Stories from the Arabian Nights. It's good to hang out with Scheherazade. This is a cool one. I have the copy of 1001 Nights in Catalan that I got from Barcelona, but I can't read Catalan, so it's nice to hang out with Scheherazade in English. I may be the most excited about this one. This is a early space race book from 1951 with really cool illustrations. And this is like a total children's book, which was kind of stoking the fire of space exploration. 1951, so if you were 10 or 12 years old, let's say 10 years old reading this, you'd be 27, 28 when we went to the moon for the first time. So kind of perfectly timed space exploration propaganda, but I don't know, it's a context and an era that you don't have usually direct access to a minor work from that time that surely some kids were really inspired by. So that's just cool. It's a cool copy. I'm really excited about 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I think there's a movie from the 90s, I think it's called The Abyss, and it's like an alien underwater sci-fi horror movie, and there's a tie-in with this book in that movie that as soon as I saw this copy, I was like, oh yeah, I've got to get 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So Jules Verne, I'm happy to have this. This may be one of those books that I wondered why I got. Mario Pei, Story of Language. This whole Noam Chomsky linguistic theory stuff, it's really long and academic, and so not sure why I got this one, but it seemed cool. And finally, Redemption on Descartes. I got his letters straight from the source, no interpretation, in this really cool dust jacket, and it contains his letters to Descartes to Mersenne, 10th of May, 1632. Reverend Father, 8 days ago I put you to the trouble of sending on a letter from me to Poitou, but I was in a hurry when writing it, having negligently put off writing as usual, until the postman was almost ready to leave. And so I forgot to include the address for a reply. This forces me to burden you once more with a letter to send on. Well, that's pretty banal stuff, but as for the results you tell me of Galileo's experiments, I deny them all, but I do not conclude the motion of the earth to be any less probable. I do indeed agree that the motion of the chariot, a boat, or a horse remains in some manner in a stone thrown from them, but there are other reasons which prevent it from remaining undiminished. Descartes and science are synonymous, that you can measure reality in the world. And I'm highly interested in science and the way the rhetoric of science is used to make more human gains, or can be used for human misadventures, misapprehension, can be used for money, fame, and our attachment to the objectivity and the language and the I'm having some allergies. Anyway, I'm gonna finish these blackberries. Yeah, thought wasn't that important, but here's all the books that I got. As you can see, your classic outdoor library, book sale, book haul.